Hey, what's going on everybody? Boilon here and welcome back to another video on Lord of the Rings Home. Now, some things that I think is worth talking about, especially with rumors that Elrond may be returning in the month of September. I want to talk a little bit about the elves more broadly. I also want to talk about a few specific elves that especially free-to-play players might be farming up, including myself actually, for a 6-star Elrond, and what maybe we might be able to use them for, especially with knowing that star ranks are king and with chapter 3 on the horizon. So I want to talk about some of this in this video, so if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. Now, first off, I do kind of want to bring us back to the Mines of Moria Chapter 3 blog post. I know we covered this already a little bit when we talked about the Faramir kit and all of that, but I want to do it again for some of the things that kind of stood out when I was reading this. Particularly, and I know we don't have the points that we're getting from this, and ironically, we probably won't until it actually goes live, because I think for Chapter 2, we didn't really know how we got the points exactly, like downing the cave troll and then downing him again after he's already, you know, whatever, when you kill him twice. And so here we can only speculate as to how we might get the points for chapter 3, but obviously they've bolded a few things in particular. Will your ring of power and the champions you have collected be enough to avoid capture and continue through the mines? Capture being bolded here. And so I'm and they also go through with, you know, again, they both capture down here, and then they talk about marking, which, so a lot of the orcs are going to have the mark mechanic, and that we want characters that taunt, and we want healing characters. So part of me is wondering, like, are they going to give us points for a hold? So we can't get points for just holding out. I think that would be really hard to calculate. I don't know how they would do that. Like, after every character takes a turn, you get points, you know, in terms of like a gauntlet style, like survive for a long time kind of thing. So the other thing that I was thinking of that might be easier to calculate might be how many times we avoid mark, how many times we taunt, how much we heal, maybe even how much we go into stealth, because I believe they talk about that somewhere in here, where a strategy, or maybe it's on the Faramir page, but they talked about how one of the strategies would be to use stealth-based characters, and this might be down here. Anyways, no squads better suited. I forget where they talk about it. I swear it must be on the Faramir page, honestly, because I believe that they did talk about in the strategy section where it would actually be useful. Strategy tips. When Faramir gains stealth with his abilities, he also dispels marked. This is a key part of his kit to ensure success for Gondor. Now, it just says key part of his kit. It does say dispels marked. So I'm wondering, like, could we get points for dispelling marked then, or not getting marked? Like, I guess I'm just trying to think of other ways where we could score points aside from just killing the orcs, but I don't think that's really the intention here behind this chapter. I think it's either avoiding it completely with stealth, or to, again, tanking and healing, maybe other elements that could see us get points. And so that's why I want to talk for the next little bit about some of the other elf characters, because I think that a lot of us, especially with Eladin being farmable now on light hard 5-9 is it, and of course, or is it 6-9? I don't even remember. 5-9 probably, and Arwen of course being farmable as well on the opposite in the shadow side. Which, by the way, I did finally, I have Arwen farmable. I managed to clear that damn hard shadow 5-3 node, which was really a pain in the ass because you can't use Ironhide because he's an NPC. It was a bit of a kick in the teeth there, but I did manage to clear that with my Haradrim. Moved on to 5-5, brought my Ironhide back in, and boom bada bing, farming Arwen now, also farming Eladin. But anyways, we're not here to talk about them because, you know, they're pretty obvious inclusions, but there are the other elf characters that people were using and not using for the Rivendell team, especially alongside Elrond. Now, we're not here to talk about Lomian. I think that Lomian, from what I hear from other people who did actually build him, is that he actually is decent. is good, I guess, on chapter 2 with the troll, the cave troll. So let me know if you've had some experience using him on chapter 2. He's kind of meh in chapter 1, I think, because, you know, a lot of his multi-hit stuff doesn't really have any value there. But I want to talk about the kits of Leliel and Naremiri. Characters that, at least for me, and maybe some of you as well, that you're shard farming, I'm getting close to 6-star, which means that if I leveled her up, that her stats would actually be pretty good, because star ranks are so important in this game, and actually, honestly, more important than things like gear. The base stat increases from the star ranks, and the pure, you know, stats that you get from leveling your characters with the high star ranks is more important than the gear. It's kind of sad, actually, really, how that is. But yeah, that's what the case is. So if I'm starting to get a 6-star Lelial and maybe a future 7-star Lelial, I'm starting to think, well, maybe I should actually use Lelial. And so I was thinking what kind of, you know, a configuration of my Elven team, or my Elrond plus Elves team in chapter 3. And I was looking at Leliel's kit. And because I don't do that very often, because I just don't use her much. She is part of my top 25, like my bottom team, basically. But, so her special 2, Woodland Light. Now, I do want to say that on level 5, it is actually reduced to a 3 stamina cost, which is pretty insane. And at level 6, it's stealth for 2 turns. So a stamina cost of 3 and stealth for 2 turns. But basically, she gains a stack of nimble for herself, and then she gains stealth for 2 turns at level 6 to all other elf allies. So basically, they're always under stealth other than her. Now, that's basically how she tanks. She doesn't have a taunt skill or a provoke or anything like that. But the way that her kit works is that she puts them all under stealth, and she's the only one left over, and that's essentially what we get. It also does heal her for a set amount as well. It goes up to about 16% of her max health, so that's not too bad. Excuse my dog shaking over there. But yeah, anyway, 16% healing for herself, so that's not too bad. Her other kit, parts of her kit also do include defensive stacks, which isn't terrible. I guess at level 6 it gives you 2, which is a long way down. Actually, the numbers aren't too bad either. 40-50% damage on a single target attack. She gets turn meter up to 15% on her basic, and then her passive gives her more block chance and increased damage. But it's really about this Woodland Light that I'm most curious about, because if this somehow, the stealth for 2 turns to everyone, and if this prevents not only marked, but basically means that she's probably the only one that's going to get marked. She's going to be tanking. And all the other elves have pretty good, especially with Elrond. If you have Elrond on your team, you're going to be healing a lot. And so maybe this might become more valid. Maybe we'll have a team of, say, what I call the Elf 3. Elrond, Eladin, and Elrohir. I think they're really hard to get rid of unless you don't need the damage. If damage is not a thing, then maybe you would get rid of Elrohir. Maybe you won't need him for chapter 3. You know, if it's all about staying alive or putting up buffs and, you know, stealth and whatnot. He does have his own stealth, but I mean, if you don't need his damage, then you could have maybe Eladin, Elrond, Arwen, Leliel, and we're going to talk about Naremiri, because if damage isn't a thing, Naremiri also has a pretty decent kit, and if you're trying to stay alive longer, then this could be it. And once again, I am farming Naremiri to 6-star for hopefully my 6-star Elrond when that comes around. I do need to farm up Eladin, of course, to 6-star, but I am on my way to doing that and hoping for the best here. So let's take a look at her kit a little bit, and the passive actually has stealth as well. So on turn, chance to gain stealth for 1 turn. If she's below half health, then it's doubled. So in a way, it's kind of a crappy passive. If you have Leliel, you probably don't need this, honestly. Like, you don't need to level this up. It's not a priority. But she does have some pretty good healing, and I like the part where she gives stamina to random elf allies. So this part, it does a fair bit of healing, actually. It's about 16% at level 5. Plus, I believe, 1200. The flat's not super important that much. And she grants 1 stamina to 1 random elf ally. At level 6, it gives it to an additional random ally, a non-elf, but I guess it also could be an elf in this instance. So 2 energy to other characters, which is really nice, but also this Purifying Rite on such a low cooldown at level 5. It cleanses Banes from squad members, which I believe Marked is also a Bane, so if by cleansing that would help as well, cleansing Marked if need be, the character with the most Banes, and it also has a chance to give them protection. It's guaranteed at level 4, and protection, which you might know from Elrond's kit, is pretty OP because there's not a lot of characters that actually give protection. So this is plus 50% armor, which is quite substantial. And at level 5, this is on a cooldown of 2, which is actually pretty crazy. And it grants a stack of counterattack at level 6. So this will add to the, you know, the whole thing about elves requiring boons, especially for Elrond, and doing more damage when you have more boons, and so on and so forth. So on a cooldown of 2, now the healing's on a cooldown of 4, which isn't the worst. I believe Pippin's is also 4, but the fact that it throws out a stamina to other characters is really nice. And you could have honestly like a healing wheel is what I'm calling it. Like going back and forth between Naremiri and Elrond healing each other. If this chapter has to do with keeping yourself alive, cleansing boons, and I don't know, tanking longer and just surviving longer, then this could be the new variation for that team. Basically, I don't really need to talk about it too much. So Naremiri, Leliel, Elrond, possibly Arwen, because Arwen also cleanses Banes. This is pretty important. She does add some regenerations onto her kit. I need to start, obviously her star rank being a 3-star makes her a little bit less valid for me, but once I can get her to 5-star plus, I'll start using her more. Obviously, her kit, though, it does quite a bit, especially for cleansing Banes, across everyone at level 4. Really, really important. So obviously, this is going to be a really good character to use in Chapter 3 as well, if that's the case. If, you're kind of, you're wanting to cleanse more Banes. Grants immunity for 1 turn to the most wounded Rivendell ally. So again, this is all of the stuff that's suggested in what they're talking about for Gondor. That they're saying the reason why Gondor is supposed to be good. Now, I would take this with a grain of salt, but anyways, they're saying that Gondor is going to be good because you're going to have immunity and you're going to, I don't know, block chance to survive longer for a tank, and stealth mechanics, which was mentioned in the Faramir kit reveal. So all of these things which the elves have in droves, and I think that will still be the top most consistent team for all the raids. I think that this is one investment, especially if Elrond's coming within the next month, that everyone should be paying attention to. And if you don't have Elrond, you should make sure that you can do whatever you can to farm up the characters that you need to get Elrond, because honestly, this has been the most consistent raid team across the board for all chapters. Depends on the variation that you're using with your characters, but regardless, at least Elrond, Eladin, and where the hell my Elro here is, probably at the bottom because of the way the roster is sorted, has been some of the best characters that I've used for raids that have been the most consistent for me. Not to mention they're usable in Arena anyways, but yes, I'm looking forward to potentially getting more value out of my other elves, including Niramiri and Lelial, because they've been benched, because I just didn't think their kit had a lot of value, but now I'm thinking about it more. Of course, I'm not going to put it into them right away, but it's something that I'm kind of holding my resources back in preparation for, just in case within a few weeks that becomes valid. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Does anyone actually have Lelial or Naramiri leveled? And what I mean, like higher than me, like 50 plus kind of thing, with gear tier? Because I'm just curious. I think there could be a lot of value in them, especially because of the star ranks and how important that is to your stats. That's just me anyways. That's the end of this video, and more to come, of course, down the line. And until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon, signing out.